everybody. So let's start off. Are all the panelists there? He got a therapeutic pleural fluid tapping which came positive for cytology, and he was then referred to us. With this history came to some severe back pain now with impending paraparesis July 2020 for further management. And since the pleural was positive, we went ahead and got his whole body PET scan done, which showed a left lung upper lobe mass, pleural based on lung parenchymal lesions, mediastinal lymph nodes, segments 3 liver lesion, a renal cortex left side hypodense lesion, vertebral lesion there which was causing the spinal cord compression, and other lesions in the bone, including a left iliac bone lesion. So if my surgical oncology colleague is Dr. Shishir or Dr. Sabita, any one of you, if this were early stage lung cancer, because we as medical oncologists get a PET CT scan done for every patient of lung cancer who comes to us when it's non-small cell lung cancer. But since you operate early stage lung cancer, is there any patient for whom you don't insist on a PET CT scan at baseline? Dr. Shishir, can you take that?
So in my practice, I do PET scan for all my early cancers.
So across all stages, you would get a PET CT scan done before you plan surgery, right, sir?
Right.
And I think that's what the NCCN guidelines also tell us. Across all stages, FDG PET CT scan should be done from stage 1A to stage 4A. So that's one place where there's complete consensus across all the oncology colleagues. Now coming to this patient, she undergoes a CT FNAC because we thought we'll get the cytology first and a biopsy as well. The report came non-small cell lung cancer on cytology, and radiation was to the D10 area started the same day. Now, my question to surgical oncologist, Dr. Sabita, if you can take this, how do you decide in your practice, should I go surgical decompression or should we start radiation therapy?
Dr. So Sabita? If there is no sudden onset, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, madam.
Yeah, so you will suggest a surgical decompression for a vertebral or a skeletal met only if there is a short standing compression or neurological deficit. If the neurological deficit has been there for a long time, the surgical decompression will not help. And if it is not compressing any nerve or any important structure, even then you can go ahead with radiation. But if it is a sudden onset compression on a which is causing a neurological deficit of less than 24 hours, then surgical decompression definitely first.
So I think point very
even
well
taken. So actually
a decision which is done after good clinical assessment, and then you decide to surgically decompress or give radiation therapy. Now we started RT because that was the COVID era going on. Anyway, the biopsy report came as adenocarcinoma non-small cell lung cancer grade 2. We also got an MRI of the brain contrast done, and the MRI brain showed no brain metastasis, no leptomeningeal metastasis. So Dr. Sabita, if you can just tell me again, since you see again early stage non-small cell lung cancer, is there any patient where you would not get an MRI brain done in your surgical practice? Because again, we as medical oncologists for all non-small cell lung cancer at baseline get a PET CT scan and MRI brain and then only proceed forward. So in your practice, when you plan surgery, do you always get MRI brain done before surgery? Yes, Dr. Sabita.
Patients, we will do a MRI brain for all the pre-operative patients planned for surgery.
So all pre-op. Dr. Shishir, any difference of opinion, or you would also agree with Sabita, madam?
I do agree with it, but many of the times I skip the MRI brain if it is, say, a 1 centimeter mass.
Right. Yeah. I think the NCCN guidelines also tell that for stage 1A, you don't require an MRI brain, but for stage 1B, it's optional. So essentially, except stage 1A, everywhere else, an MRI brain can be done. For stage 1B, it's optional. Now, coming to both of you again, solitary brain metastasis. So I'll show you some slides. Surgery versus whole brain RT. Surgery seems better. Adjuvant whole brain RT versus observation after surgery or radiosurgery. What is your practice? Like, so you have an early stage lung cancer and one single solitary brain metastasis. Would you like to operate both with a curative intent? And if so, is it surgery and then RT if it's RT, whole brain RT or SRS? Dr. Shishir, could you take that?
So
The decision.
hello.
To hear you, madam. Yes, Dr. Shishir.
So single met to the brain, early stage lung cancer treatment
Yes.
with curative intent seems to be the day of the order, followed by SBRT.
Right.
That would
So
be
you
the
would
way.
like to operate both and process curative intent.
Yes.
I think that's what all this Cochrane data also has shown, that surgery alone or SRS alone or surgery SRS whole brain RT does give more control, but that's offset by the side effects. And the omission of whole brain RT does not sacrifice the overall survival. So that was about surgery, and then of course SRS advantages as well. For instance, up to 10 tumors, volume 15 ml, you can treat with SRS. Usually 1 to 5 fractions are enough. We now come to this patient. Now the sons are in a hurry to get the mutations as soon as possible, because these are patients who can afford anything on the earth, be it investigations, evaluations, or treatments. So they want to get the mutations as soon as possible. And so I'll show you the mutation reports. Now we know that the EGFR report takes around 7 days, sometimes 10 days to come. Now your EGFR core prime, where the report comes in 24 hours, we got that done, and you found no EGFR mutations. So 11 July sample sent, 12th July, no mutations. Now these are the exon 19 deletions which they have seen, and there you find that there are no mutations present. The ALK1 by IHC is negative. The report comes on 14th of July. The ROS1 comes positive. Now this is the D4D6 IHC marker, the clone, and the H score came as 130. If the score is 100 or above, then it's labeled as ROS1 IHC positive. And then the PDL1 by SP263, the tumor cell score is 30%. Bharat, in your practice, do you decide to do the PDL1 depending on the clone and the molecule you want to use afterwards? For instance, different clones are there for different immunotherapy molecules. What do you do in your practice? Do you upfront tell the pathologist what clone you want to check?
Specifically in lung, sir, I don't have any preference. The only thing is, in lung cancer, if I use any of the platform 22C3, 28-8 or what we say 263, they are equivalent as per as blueprint study 2. Only thing in that study was that SP142, which was supposed to be a slightly inferior to the other three. So for lung cancer, as long as I am doing a tumor proportional scoring, and as in lung, I can use any of the three, not per SP142. And I can take away with the result of the blueprint study 2, which showed that there is probably a good concordance with all the three platform used as either of the three used in lung.
Wonderful, Bharat. So unlike triple negative breast cancer, where you would choose the platform before you put the atezolizumab, here any of the clones are appropriate, and I think you gave a very nice answer to this. So now let me show you some data about 26 patients, IHC negative, FISH positive, 62% response rate, IHC positive, 100% response rate. Now this was a 2018 paper. 2019 May, IHC, NGS, or FISH, no difference in response rate, disease control, or PFS in all the three groups. And 2020, IHC positive with NGS negative, response rate 90%, median PFS 13 months. Now I put this patient on crizotinib 250 mg twice daily. Am I right or am I wrong? Is Dr. Surendra or Deepthi or Sushil, anyone available? Any of the medical oncology colleagues can take up this question. Crizotinib 250 mg twice daily food started for this patient. Am I right or am I wrong?
Sir, can I answer?
Yes, Bharat, please.
Sir, this is a patient, I'll just recollect. This is a IHC positive, but FISH has not been done. Am I right? Whether we have confirmed by FISH also.
Yes.
So, sir, if the answer is if you see the data of first line crizotinib in a patient with a ROS positive, the PFS is as good as 18 to 19 months, probably the highest, if you can say, in the targetable mutation, provided that this is confirmed by FISH, it is ROS rearrangement. So I'll be very happy to start the patient on crizotinib 250 mg twice a day as suggested by you. Hello, sir?
Have we lost Satya for a moment?
Till that time, madam, you continue. You can ask.
Yeah, so I definitely think this is the Satya is back. So Satya, we chose to give crizotinib. Dr. Bharat just chose to give crizotinib. You can take it over from there. You're
Mute.
muted.
You're muted, sir.
Sir, unmute yourself, please. I think he lost his connection.
Mute, sir. You are mute.
Satya sir, please unmute yourself. Niro, can you unmute, sir, from your end?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay now?
Yes.
Sorry.
So, Dr. Bharat,
Can you see my slides?
your patient. Now what?
Sir,
Bharat, what is it?
sir,
Sorry,
sir,
I missed
as
you,
long
Bharat.
as
Sorry.
we have, sir, if we have confirmed by FISH it is ROS rearrangement, I'll be very happy to start this patient on crizotinib, as the pivotal study, that the study showed that the PFS was around 18 months. I think the best study till now. Of course, we have one more option of entrectinib also, but that is not available for all purposes. Crizotinib is the go-to drug in a ROS rearrangement patient.
So, but the FISH report has not yet come, so I'll show you 7 papers
FISH has
now.
not- that is what I was asking, sir, whether
Yes,
FISH has
yes.
come
So I'll
or
show you 7 papers now, and then can you let me know am I right or wrong? So, paper 1 in the
slide is not visible.
slides are not visible.
You need to share the screen again.
Just a second. Sorry about this. Are they visible now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll show you 7 papers now. IHC, ROS, and IHC and FISH. The blue is sensitivity and the red is specificity, right? So sensitivity 100%, specificity 83%. Second paper 92% specific. Third paper 93.6%. Fourth paper is 96%. Fifth is 96.9. Sixth is 98.12, and seventh is 100% specific. So there's a pretty high chance that the FISH is going to come positive for ROS1. Do I start this patient on crizo with the ISC report and not wait for FISH? Bharat?
Sir, if you ask me, I'll wait for a FISH report. Although I agree with whatever you said, 83 to 100%, but I still, as per as guidelines also, if you have a IHC positivity, that is 40%, then you have to confirm it by FISH. So if the patient is symptomatic, maybe at that time I may give a single cycle of chemo and wait for FISH. Or if the patient is asymptomatic, then I'll better wait for a FISH report before I start the patient on crizotinib.
Amit Verma, sir, any difference of opinion? Okay, so either I was doing the right thing and the patient did show improvement in the pulmonary complaints, or because the steroids were started, they were doing the wrong thing and therefore the patient improved symptomatically. It gave me a feeling that crizotinib is working. The experts also agree with what Bharat said, that ROS1 ISC screening tool only, confirmation by a molecular test is mandatory like FISH or RT-PCR. So the FISH actually came negative. So Bharat, you were right. The FISH actually came negative despite at least 83% chance that the FISH would come positive. So taking it forward now this case report tells you that response can happen to Crizo even if IHC is positive and fish is negative. So it was based on this, I therefore continued the Crizo despite the fish report having come negative. So coming to a radiation, 8 fractions over, and then his pain got relieved. There was no paraparesis now. He was walking well, but his pulmonary symptoms worsened and he got fever too. He got a CT chest done showing ground glass capacities, and this was CORATS 5 COVID pneumonitis. So those are those ground glass capacities on 18th of July. I continued crizotinib because he was otherwise responding well. Having said that, the back pain reduced and we stopped radiation therapy at 8 fractions. We had planned 10 fractions. We don't have a radiation colleague, but Bharat or anyone can take it up. Questions from a radiation oncology colleague: if your patient is planned for curative intent RT, can we reduce RT fractionation to minimize the number of visits to hospital? And number 2, do we interrupt curative intent adjuvant or definitive RT in a lung cancer patient who has documented COVID-19? Can anyone take up this? Surendra, Deepti, Sushil sir, Savita, Amit Verma sir. Bharat?
Sir, Sir,
Yes.
sir, if you look into the guidelines also for reducing the number of visits, definitely something. I'm not a radiation oncologist, but that has been advocated, hypofractionated or less of a visit to a RT. In a RT, instead of giving a 10 fraction RT, you give 3 fractions or 2 fraction 10 gray each. So something that we have tried to realize that we can reduce the number of visits provided if this is a palliative thing. So I think we can definitely do it. Maybe in a curative setting, I may not do it, but in a palliative setting, I am entitled to
You're right. For the question 1, the answer is yes. For the question 2, the answer is no. You should not intervene curative things going on. Surgical oncologically, or Sushil and Savita, what about COVID surgeries in these COVID times? If you can give me a quick and crisp answer. Curative surgeries for thoracic malignancies in these COVID times.
Curative surgery. I don't think we should stop curative surgeries for mild to moderate risk patients who will not require post-op ICU or ventilator, because that is still the most curative option available. But for high-risk patients who may require prolonged ventilation or ICU, we should not be blocking the ICU with them. So they should be referred to alternative therapies like SPRT or CPRT.
Completely agree with you, madam. We need to go curative whenever the chance is there. Now, there is practice for that, like active cancer, advanced age, poor PS, smoking status, comorbid conditions, giving cytotoxic chemotherapy and the type of cancer. Now, these 3 cohort studies have shown that these can increase the mortality from COVID-19. Now, therefore, we don't intend to give cytotoxic chemotherapy. Am I right, Bharat?
Yes, sir. Agree. Fully agree. Whatever.
Verma, are you
Can
there?
I say something, Dr. Datta?
With the type of cancer, if your patient has lung cancer, the chance of mortality is 25%. Nirav, can you hear me?
Dr. Dattatray,
Yes, sir.
so during COVID times, one of the toughest time for cancer patients, and things have got, when we started, we never knew that it's going to be for 6 months, and now again we are facing probably 3 to 4 months of it. So I think we in private at Apollo never really stopped operating, and we were operating all the cases which have come. We were a little biased as to when it came to high risk.
We'll go forward now.
Yeah.
So the CT chest and pulmonary angiography showed that the pneumonia was coming down and the pulmonary thromboembolism was negative. Now, cytotoxic chemotherapy, yes or no? Bharat, Amit Verma, any of the medical oncology colleagues? Yes, then which one?
Sir, if the patient has
Bharat, can you hear me?
Yeah, sir. If the patient has an acute infection, we should wait till, so the guidelines say that you should wait for at least 2 weeks if there is a COVID infection. So what happens is at day 12, after day 12, if the patient is day 12 of the onset of the infection, or 1 week, what we say for symptoms. But by the time, if 2 weeks are over and patient is asymptomatic, you can restart the treatment. If you see the older thing, they said that you need to have a RT-PCR negative for COVID. But if you are seeing the recent papers that have shown is Once 2 weeks is over, that infectivity, everything comes back to zero. Depends if the patient is fit enough. 2 weeks have already passed post this. You can start ahead with the chemotherapy if the patient, because this is a rapidly progressing cancer and it would be difficult to wait for more time before we start treatment.
So since you don't want to use the chemotherapy now, would you want additional, because we have got the ROS1, the ALK, the PDL1, and the EGFR done. You would like to other investigations done also, because as Dr. Smriti mentions, we can look at the G7 summit and you go beyond these three and also look for BRAF, for NTRK, fusion, for exon 14 and for RET. So if you look at all 8 of them, it becomes the G8. Okay, so what about
Voice is not.
and PDL1 is 30%? What about using immunotherapy? Yes or no? If yes, then which one of these? Amit Verma sir, Bharat, any of the medical oncology colleagues there?
Sir, voice is breaking up. The thing is ROS negative or ROS positive?
ROS negative, because the fish came negative.
Okay, sorry. Sir, in a 30% patient with a de novo, yes. If all the driver mutations are negative, I'll put my patient on a combination of chemo plus immunotherapy. It is less than 50. We have a documented data as far as Keynote 189, everything, that adding of a combination of chemo with IO gives the best ORR, PFS, and the overall survival also. The drug that I use is the most robust data is with the combination of Pembro with a combination of Pem Carbo. So probably my choice will be a chemo plus a IO, which will be pembrolizumab.
Right. So I'll just show you something here. These are all the options which you showed, like pemetrexed plus plus an immunotherapy molecule. But we have a novel chemo-sparing first-line treatment option, the combination of Nivo and EP. Your thoughts on this very quickly?
Sir, again, a combination which is good. If it is 30%, again, yeah, this is a valid combination. If the patient does not want to take a chemo because of anything like alopecia, something that he does not want to take chemo, then that can be an acceptable option that we have. Agreed.
But right now, so is it safe to treat cancer patients with nivolumab or pembrolizumab single agents? Number 2, should we avoid the combination of nivo plus
Satya, you may want to switch off.
Cytotoxic chemotherapy, majority of them would be against it. The combinations, if you think it's beneficial, should be done with a combination of Nivo and EP, but cytotoxic chemotherapy.
Sir, you close your screen, probably that the disturbance may.
Satya, you want to switch off your video?
Option rather than incorporate chemotherapy plus a inhibit. Now, Bharat, your thoughts, this patient can afford anything on the board, any.
Sir, I am not able to hear questions, sir. Sorry, sir. Interrupt.
Dr. Dattatreya?
I'm just trying to call Satya. I'm going to tell him to switch off his video. I think.
Dr. Dattatreya?
I think his question was, when do you use the combination? Do you use the combination in this setting? But I don't know what he wanted to ask.
Not understood, madam. Whether
Hi, Sevanti, this is Ullas here.
Yes, Ullas.
So can I answer that question till then Satya gets stream back?
What was the question, sir? I did not, and the question was also.
Okay, so the question here is that the PDL1 is 30%, So will you go for a combination of Pembro plus Pemcab, or will you go for a combination of Nivo EP? That's the question he wants to ask you. So tell me the question.
Video is not
Answer.
there, right?
No, the video is not there. Yes. Okay, thanks.
So Dr. Bharat, you can tell that.
Satya is back
Sir, you
on.
can answer. Sir, the benefit, if you look at the hazard ratio, the better hazard ratio is with the combination of Pembro plus combination of Pem and Carbo. If you see it at the same endpoint, probably in less than 1% or more than 50%, this combination of Nivo EP probably did better. But in between this 1 to 50, that response is as far as this checkmate 2 to 7 was not the way we expected it to. For if you ask me, I'll be preferring a combination of Pembro with a combination of cytotoxic chemo rather than the other two. Only thing is, if the patient doesn't have the preference of taking a chemotherapy because of any maybe toxicity profile of chemo conventional, then I may think of giving a Nivo EP. Sir, I'll be welcome. What is your views, sir?
So Bharat, I got your point very well. So you can always use immuno-oncology molecule or a combination of IO. It's prudent that you avoid adding chemo in these patients. Now, my question to you is, these patients, all the hotspots are negative. PDL1 30%. Now, before starting immunotherapy, do you want to check any other investigation? Is Amit Verma there?
Yeah. I wanted to just say that we should look for the ROS mutation. What is the reason why the crizotinib has started failing actually? The standard G2032R mutation, which we have to look into for the ROS secondary resistance actually.
No. The ROS one by FISH is negative. My question is, would you like to go with comprehensive genomic profiling, or they can put anything on the earth? Would you
That's
like
what I'm saying, that we have to, that's what I'm saying, that we have to do a ROS mutation test using the comprehensive genomic profiling.
Absolutely.
Which
yes.
may give me the reasons for secondary mutations and other targetable or actionable alterations actually.
And more importantly, if by chance you find a mutation somewhere, then initiating immunotherapy first, shortly before a TKI, will actually lead to more immune toxicities. So therefore, unless you are dead sure that there are no mutations possible and no more tests you plan to do, initiating immunotherapy shortly before a TKI will be detrimental. So wait for results of NGS before acting on PDL1 testing results was my take-home message. Now, can TKIs modulate the immune response?
Here, 1 second. We are actually really running behind with all the technical and everything. And I know you have a talk, and then I have a small talk.
So I will finish it off in another 5 minutes.
Sure, please. Thank you.
Right, so I'll quickly brush through this. Now, this patients, now we have various investigations like Paradigm, Foundation 1, CMI, BGI, and then the Oncomine DX targets test, and then liquid biopsies as well. Amit, quickly, can you let me know which one do you choose? How do we decide which one should the patient go? Very quickly, 15 seconds.
Yeah, so 15 seconds, not more than that. So I would be choosing liquid biopsy at this juncture. For the ease and to know the targetable actionable mutations, and I will be choosing the one which are FDA approved. Both the Cardin 360 and the Foundation liquid biopsies are right now offering FDA approved liquid biopsies.
So I got the point. So choose what's FDA approved. Now this patient gets the Paradigm testing done from the block, and the report comes EGFR T751 to 758 deletion, which was not there in the core report first. And that was checking at 42 hotspots. There's a point mutation there, and the TMB is 11 mutation on the base. Bharat, what will you do?
Sir, EGFR, what is this mutation?
It's exon 19 deletion.
Exon 19 deletion. Then the thing is clear. I'll put him on a EGFR TKI. Probably, since it is 19, people may debate, but osimertinib will be my drug of choice.
So this patient doesn't have brain mets, and I got the PET scan done just before starting the EGFR TKI. The left lung upper mass progressed, so didn't work at all. If increased, mets increased, cervical nodes, liver lesions, and only the bone down. Now the MRI brain is normal. Then which molecule will use? Which EGFR TKI? Or osimertinib, or a first generation EGFR plus chemotherapy?
Sir, I did not. This was the first time detected, or have we started some treatment? We have not started any. The voice was breaking. So this is a de novo EGFR
because this
mutation.
report came now. No. Before starting treatment now, because this report now came EGFR positive. Let's see. Before putting on the EGFR TKI, and it shows all these lesions. So which one do you want me to choose? Osimertinib?
No, I noticed what Ullas sir said. We have a good data for osimertinib also in this rare, although the data with afatinib is better for uncommon mutations. So either of the two, either, sir.
Either of the two. If the patient had brain metastasis, then what would you do?
Then probably the preferred option may be a osimertinib with a better CSS.
Very nice. So this is the MRI brain showing 6 brain lesions. And therefore the patient was put on osimertinib. And at the same time, what Amit said was to send a liquid biopsy, and we send it for the foundation one, and the report came exon 19 deletion. But then in the bottom you find there is TP53 present. Amit, what do you say now? What do we do?
So what is TP53?
Yeah, the bottom one, if you can see, the TP53 also is found in the liquid biopsy now.
Yeah, so for me, it's okay. I because 53 being the commonest mutation, so it can coexist with EGFR. But the bottom line is that the ROS1 clones are absent. So targeting alone with TKI may give the answer. And this is one of the explanation for the secondary resistance in ROS mutant patient actually. So I have the explanation what went wrong.
So osimertinib is your choice as well.
Osimertinib or dacometinib or afatinib, whatever, all things will work. Yeah.
Because this patient had brain mets. Anyway, we move further. I have 2 more minutes. So the MRI brain became completely normal. Decrease in size of liver lesions, lung mass, suprachiasmatic node, no change in kidney nodes, but the patient has now multiple new lesions on osimertinib, cervical nodes, axillary nodes, pelvic nodes, inguinal nodes, and multiple bone metastasis. Osimertinib also did not work. Now, ideally, we should have got a biopsy done, but the biopsy didn't happen. These are the recent PET scan reports of 2nd September showing the lung lesions have gone down, but some have increased. And those are the arrow marks showing the new lesions popping up, very, very high SUV activity. So now what do we do? Now, would you label this as upfront resistance or acquired resistance to first-line osimertinib? Bharat, Amit.
Sir, how long did we able to give this osimertinib? 3 months?
28 days.
Only resistant only then probably. What maybe a atypical mutation that has not worked or a coincidence of P53. In fact, I have 2 patients now, sir. Both of them relapsed progress within 6 months because they were having this P53 maybe mutation.
I think Bharat brought home the point that if TP53 is present, then probably be on a close watch out because you might be having the disease progressing very soon on the EGFR TKI. So what do we do now after this last point for today? Osimertinib has failed.
Agree.
What do we do now?
Sir, yeah, one of the better drugs that if I say, if we have that affordability, this should be a drug which I can, I'll try to give it. I think Ullas sir will agree with this. In a second line setting, if I say there is a valid indication of you be using the ABCP, is probably in a patient who has progressed on maybe EGFR TKI. That probably should be the best go-to drug here.
I think this is what we also planned.
We really running short of time. Sorry for.
It's over, madam. It's done. We are through. So this is the last slide. And now I'll start my second talk about ALK inhibitors. Okay, madam?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.